soaking it in. You should just open your arms wide and soak in all the applause.
I'm probably going to cry, as everyone knows.
That's the goal today. The goal is to make you cry.
Yeah, I think it's pretty easy.
I mean, you did it.
Did it?
Well, okay, so we were talking a little bit backstage, but we were like holding it in to save it for now.
She was like, wait, that's really poignant. Don't say it yet.
Yep. Tell us about your jacket.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can talk about this jacket. So this jacket, I was in the car on my way here listening to... Whenever I know I have like a 10-minute drive, I listen to the Taylor Swift All Too Well 10-minute version.
There's a 10-minute version?
There's a whole 10-minute version, and it's a lot longer and more ballady, and it was raining today, so it was kind of perfect to just wistfully look out the window while driving through the city. And I drove through Columbia, which is where I started a PhD, and this is the jacket I bought and wore to an exam that I failed. And after that exam, I dropped out of the program and changed careers.
Lucky jacket.
Lucky jacket? I was like, I was going to ask you. I was in the car. I was like, I want to ask Sohla this. Do you have lucky clothes and unlucky clothes?
These are my favorite shoes.
They're good.
I have a couple pairs.
Yeah.
I wish Nike made more because I want to buy like 10 of them.
My cousin actually works at Nike, so I can tell him. He like designs their shoes.
This is my last pair.
Okay.
But I guess these are my lucky shoes.
Oh.
But they're also comfortable, and I like that there's no laces.
Yeah,
They're
that's
my
really
lazy
good.
Shoes.
That is really cool, and they're Airs. I've been wearing these weird hiking boots all tour because I ruined my white Nikes. I was like gonna buy like nicer ones, and those would be my like stage shoes or whatever, and then I just ended up wearing these weird hiking boots instead, and I've been trying to figure out like my clothes for this weird thing, which is like book tour, which is like going in front of people on stage, and but today I just like pulled out things that I already had, and I haven't worn this jacket in a very long time, and so it feels very, very strange.
I'm just impressed it still fits.
I know, me too. Thank you.
So you dropped out from your literature PhD.
Yes.
So to even get there, do you have a master's in?
I think so. I have like a math.
Think so?
It's really confusing. I have a Master of Arts in Literature, but then there's like a step before the PhD that's called an MPhil, Master of Philosophy. But it's confusing because it's a Master of Philosophy in Literature, not philosophy.
Okay, that makes
So-
sense, because when I was reading your book, you quote a lot of Russian writers.
Yeah.
I was like, interesting. There's so much to you.
Thank you. There's so much to you.
Well,
Guys, this is only like the third time we're meeting, which is kind of a lot of times maybe, but
yeah.
we set this up when we didn't know each other yet, or we didn't meet.
Well, it's been tough the last few years. Like, I feel like I'm meeting a lot of people for the first time because we've developed friendships during the pandemic when we couldn't like connect.
Right. At the same time, I don't know if you feel this way, but when I do meet that person in person, I'm just sort of like, this doesn't feel that weird because I feel like I know you.
Yeah.
But also we like see each other on the screen, I guess.
Yeah.
And then we do this like, we do this like kind of two ships in the night baton pass thing in the NYT cooking studio, right? Like I know when Sohla's been there. Sometimes I can go in the fridge and eat her cakes or something. Be like, I want to taste Sohla's food. And so we haven't really spent that much time together in person until now, which is really cool.
But it feels familiar.
Yeah.
Yeah. Easy.
Yeah.
No big deal.
No big deal.
No big deal at all.
We're just doing it in front of like 200 people.
You know, the first thing when I saw you that I'm just very impressed by how aerodynamic your hair is.
Oh, thank you.
How do you? It defies gravity.
I'm always wearing a mask in public usually, and when people walk up to me, I'm always like, "How did you recognize me?" And they're like, "Your hair." I'm like, "Oh." So I don't know. I feel like it does something different every day, so I'm surprised that people recognize it.
There's always a lot of volume.
But your hair is very iconic too. This bob and the bangs, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, this is a dumb question. That's not my real question. Well, I want to ask it now. When did you decide to do the hair? The Sohla?
So I've had a couple of cycles of what my favorite thing to do is grow my hair out all the way to like super long and then cut it all off and then come down, grow it out and try out different haircuts on the way.
Oh, I like that.
But I think I might be stuck here.
It's good.
Because I tried growing it out and people got really mad and I was like, I don't care, I'll just bring the bangs back.
Are you a people pleaser?
Uh-huh. That's how you end up here.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, recipe development,
Yeah.
doing anything with food is all about like hospitality. You do it for other people.
It really is. I mean, it sounds cheesy, but it kind of is. But okay, I have another full circle moment thing here. The reason I wanted to do a 92Y anyway was because I used to come here to watch Nigella talk to various people. People like Gabrielle Hamilton, and then another time was with Amanda Hester. But I remember she said one time in those talks that that cooking is a way to control people, and I thought that was really funny. So there's like the whole like hospitable like baker type who's like doing it for service and other people, but then there's this other part which is like the artist part, which is like I don't know. When I'm serving a steak, I cut it for the person before giving it to them because I don't trust them to cut it themselves.
Who's coming to your house?
I don't know. My friends are pretty like chill, but what about you? Do you think there's any bit of yourself that likes the control you have when you cook?
Yeah. Well, I just want to know what I'm going to eat. And the best way to know is if you make it yourself.
Yeah. Ooh, dang, that was good.
But I mean, I think that for me early on, I got into cooking because it was like a good way to make friends. Because I was really weird.
Yeah.
And it's worked out. Hey.
I like that. Yeah, I think about my favorite moments. It's definitely in people's homes, like when they're cooking for me. Or it doesn't happen very often, but for me too. Just I love cooking for people. Yeah, it feels so good. But it's not. It's like altruism. It's like altruism in that you have to question like, if you enjoy it, is it like altruistic? I don't
There's
know.
no such thing as
There's no such a thing. Yeah, that's the point.
Everything is selfish.
That's the point.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I agree.
Yeah.
So yeah.
When I think of you, besides your cooking, though, I think about you're an incredible writer.
Oh, thank you.
That's what I think of first. So what is your first love? Food or the word?
I think my boss is here, so I don't know what to say.
Which one's your boss?
Genevieve. Sorry to blow your spot. She's my editor too. Sorry, that's what. I really just I'm really lucky because my title is cooking writer, and I love cooking and I love writing.
No, you got to pick one, and you got 2 seconds.
Okay, I think I'll say that I'm a writer first because I wanted to say it feeds my soul, but that sounded really cheesy in my head, and then I said it out loud, and it was still cheesy. But I think writing is something that was always a constant for me, and it was how I like found meaning in myself, I would say. So, like even I remember in 3rd grade, I drew and wrote like little children's books, and I bound them, and my teacher would put it in the library. And that was like a thing, and kids would like check out Eric's books. And
That's so cute. I wonder, do you know if they're still out there?
oh my God, probably on eBay somewhere. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding, I don't know. I don't know. Oh my God, you know what? All I have to do is reach out to that teacher, right? Oh my God, Miss Smith. She probably has them, right? If you were a
just gotta
3rd grade,
find the right Miss Smith.
I know, but if you were a 3rd grade teacher and one of your students like wrote children's books, would you throw those out? That'd be awful if you did. Maybe. I
You
don't know.
have a lot of students. I don't know. I would have like a 5-year rule.
Right. Yeah. 5-year rule. Yeah. Well, that reminds me of one thing, which is I just dissociated right now. I like reminding myself that I'm in New York because yesterday I was just in Atlanta, and I also did this in Atlanta, and I'm having like a really incredible full circle moment where I like reenacted the thing that I feel like, self-conscious saying this, but I'm reenacting the thing I did in the book, which is like going home and then having to leave again, and then driving through the city this time not on my way to an exam to fail, but this time on my way to like a 92Y event where all these people are coming to see me, and listening to All Too Well, and it's raining outside. I'm having a really like Eric day, and I think I'm for the first time in a while I'm like really indulging in it, and I feel like present. Do you feel present?
Sure. Well, so when you were working on your literature PhD, so what was the thing? What was the thing that made you switch gears so suddenly?
Yeah. Well, it really was in the exam room. I didn't really pass. I got like a low. I didn't really fail. I got a low pass, which is really just a euphemism for maybe get out or just consider a different path, because everyone passes usually. It's like a kind of a given. And so I remember the reason I got a low pass is because I just was really terrible at speaking. I didn't know how to talk. I was like 22, 23 years old. So I was like not good at speaking. Like no one takes for granted that speaking is something that adults do, and like children don't know how to do speaking in public like this. It's really ironic that I'm doing this now. But I think because of, part of the passing this oral exam was speaking about the books, and I had written about the books. I'd written about the books my whole life, and and I just had to speak about them, and I failed. And then I was looking at the room, and it was 4 white men, and it was 4 people that I hadn't come to Columbia to like study with. Mm-hmm. And the people that I did go to study with left, or they didn't get tenure, and they were people who just I watched them not succeed at that school. I don't want to say that. That's not fair for those people. I just mean that their work wasn't as valued as the people who were in that room. And I remember feeling like, oh man, this isn't my place anymore. So, this is like getting serious now. I remember leaving that exam room just so lost, and I called my brother. I was wearing this jacket, and I was like, I think I'm gonna drop out. And he was like, yeah, I've told the story a bunch, but it really takes someone like a sibling to be like, Eric, you were never happy those 3 years you were there. I've seen you every time we meet for brunch. Your hair is all crazy, probably aerodynamic, and just, but not in a good way. So he was like, but you always talk about food, so maybe you should do something else. So I dropped out. I had the option to take the exam again or leave with a Master of Philosophy in Literature, which really helped with everything, with nothing. And so I did leave, and it was really hard because it was the first time in my life where I didn't know what I was doing. Mm-hmm. And that was so hard. Yeah.
How'd Jean take it?
They were really supportive. It's funny, they were really supportive. It was hard because it was, when I was calling them to tell them, I think I'm going to drop out, they were like, we just want you to be happy. But I could tell, they're kind of like, well, maybe you'll go back. Maybe you'll finish. Maybe you'll like try again or something like that. But I didn't know at the time that I was going to get into food writing or food media or any of that. I didn't even know that any of that existed really. But it made me flash back to like when I called them in my senior year dorm. I was like, I got into this program, and they cried with joy. They're like so happy, and because I think for Asian parents, a school like that, it like makes sense to them, or that it translates to them, and so I think eventually telling them like, oh, I might want to write about food, or I might want to do this, I might want to work at Food Network. It didn't like. I think it wasn't as equal to them until they started. I think the book was probably just kidding. I think it was once I started writing essays that had comments under it that were like, this made me cry, or like, thank you for, or like, I made this dish. And I think once they saw the comments of my articles, they were like, oh, okay. I think they started to understand more. And then it was very tangible when I came home and I was like, we have to write a book in a year. And then they were like, okay. And then I think now we're good. But they were always supportive in the end.
My parents also really, the way they feel about me is the way other people feel about me. That's what determines it.
Yeah, it's a very, it's a very immigrant parent thing. I don't want to make a blanket statement, but what would you say?
Well, that's why I'm always really curious about anyone in our industry who's Asian. Like, how did your parents take it?
Right. I think it didn't make sense to them. Even when I got the Times job, like my mom was doing laundry, I remember, and I was like, I walked into her office. I walked into the laundry room, and I was like, sorry, that made it sound like, anyway. It's a thing. Our laundry machine, like, never works. It, like, always stops mid-cycle, and my mom's the only one who knows how to fix it. Anyway, so I told her that I was maybe going to get this job, and she was like, oh yeah, I think that'll be a great job for you. I think you would enjoy doing that. And I was like, thanks. I feel like, so even that, I don't know, not that she's not proud, but I feel like in the end, nothing will matter to her. Like, even the book, like, of course she's so happy for me, and she's like sharing the book with all her, with her community, and also she's freaking in the book, so I think she's like pretty proud of it. But
Was that the plan all along?
yeah, that was really the plan, just to make my parents proud. But I think really, I realized that in the end, they just want me to be happy. That sounds like,
That's great.
But there is a point, yeah, like when you're growing up, you're like, when are you going to stop comparing me to other kids? Like, that's the thing. Like, Kevin, you got a 2340 on his SATs. Are you going to take it again? And my score is like only like a little bit lower or something. I'm like, no, I'm not going to take it again. It's like, I don't give a shit what Kevin Yu's doing.
Yeah, I still hear about what everybody else is doing.
But are your parents like, man, have you seen Priya Krishna? That girl can write.
Oh yeah. Her fiance is so handsome. Well, my parents did. I think that they have a hard time understanding what this job even is. It's very hard to explain it because it is so hard. Fun that it's almost like, that's not a real job. You're having too much fun.
Oh, yeah.
You sit around and cook and write about it all day.
Yeah.
Sometimes people take a video. You go talk to people. Like, it doesn't sound like, because I think in their mind a job is hard. I mean, soul crushing. Everything's hard. You know what I mean?
Yeah. We do have really weird jobs. I have moments when I'm cooking or I'm writing a recipe. I'm like, this is such a strange life. It's like a great life, but it's a very strange one. Mm-hmm. It's really bizarre that we like cook these things, we create these dishes, and then we write them down, and people make them. That's weird. Sorry.
You did it. You described it.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
But who gets to do that? It's like very,
Well, my favorite thing is cooking for people.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed working in a restaurant. So sometimes I do miss that I can't like directly feed people, but it is cool that you kind of still are through the recipe.
Yeah.
Like, you're still in people's kitchen in like a different way.
I think about that too. It's really sweet. I think I'm nosy. Like, I love Instagram because people take pictures of their kitchens and they take a picture of their dinner table and of their meals, and it. Part of it is really lovely because it's like, oh, thank you for making the recipe and trusting it, or I'm glad you liked it. But also, it's like, I love seeing into people's lives, and it's so fascinating to be connected to people in that way. What's your relationship to Instagram?
Oh, it's so bad, so unhealthy.
Unhealthy.
I like I'll do okay, and then like slip into a hole.
Right.
If I'm sad and I can't get out. I think that is a difficult thing because it's part of our job is to be on there, but you don't want it to take over your life.
No.
I don't know. Sometimes I forget that my real life is more important.
Yes.
But I don't know. How do you deal with it?
Ooh, it's an ever-evolving relationship for sure. I think I'm really grateful for my Instagram. I mean, you were talking about like which came first, writing or cooking, and I was in grad school when I was like depressed and I hated that place. I was cooking meals for myself and writing Instagram captions. Like, that's when I started Instagram at the end of grad school, and I used up the whole space, like the whole caption. I've told this story before, and I'm always like self-conscious when I'm in front of a bunch of people. I'm like, how many people have heard this story?
Wait, is there a limit?
Okay, yeah, so there is a limit.
I've never hit it.
And so, yeah, I was hitting it every time.
So do you do
like
the continued in the comment section below?
If the story needed it. but usually I would just no, it was a lovely way to contain yourself. It was like, also it's literally a container. It's a phone size word pad. So I feel like that's something that I enjoy about Google Docs. Like I write recipes and stuff in a Google Doc, but then what you can do is you look at it on your phone at the end, and that's how I edit self-edit before I file something. And you just catch more things when you're on your phone because it's like a smaller space. It's a weird.
It's a really good idea.
Yeah, it's a weird thing I do, but when you just change it's kind of like when you change the font. It helps you when you're writing like an essay.
Is that a thing?
Yeah, when you write an essay.
Tell me writer tricks.
Well, I don't know if it's a writer trick. I think it's like a college student trick, or it's like you have an essay due soon and you're just procrastinating, so you just change the font to make yourself feel better, and then you kind of see it differently. I do think it's a thing, though. I think it works. Oh, Priya, not to blow her spot, but she told me once that she likes to write her Times articles directly in the CMS because then it's in the New York Times font. And I thought it was so cute.
So you like the writing. That's
Yeah, I
been
really do.
established. So what was the process of writing the cookbook like?
Oh my God. It was so hard. I don't think people, well, you just filed. Oh my God, you just filed one.
No. It was due 2 Fridays ago.
Oh, sorry. Okay. We don't talk about
I think we have the same literary agent. She's here somewhere. Sorry, Kitty. Hi.
Sorry, I blew your spot. Okay, no.
But no one's ever on time except for Priya.
It was so funny. Yeah. Oh my God, yeah, that girl. Ugh. It was so funny. Leading up to this event, so we met for dinner one time. Mm-hmm. That was our very first time meeting. It was so fun. It was at Mel's, which is delicious. It was very good, really good pizza. Anyway, and then we met at Rick's dinner where he was on his Rick Martinez put out a book, Mi Cocina, recently. Go out and get it. We were meeting him for dinner, but both times, all of us were sharing our cookbook stories, and we're like, oh my God, yeah, no one's ever on time, or we filed it 2 weeks later. And then it's also just and then I remember you were like, no, don't tell me that. But I think we were giving you excuses to
I think that's why I'm not done.
Well, yeah, please blame it on me. It's okay. I think
you guys are bad influences.
We're bad influences, yeah. But sorry, I really need to just answer the question. Really, really hard. It was really hard. I started it during the pandemic, and it was really lonely because I was in my New York apartment, and we had just gone into lockdown. I can't believe this was our lives. March 2020. I think I started writing it May. That's when I got the official, notice that I got the book deal. And then I was trying to develop these recipes, these Koreanish recipes. Those first few recipes were so bad. They tasted so bad. And it's such a cheesy story, but it's because I was trying too hard, and I was trying to be something else, and I was not trying to be me. And but I was trying to figure out what Korean American meant. I didn't really know what I meant. So there was a really watery kimchi tuna noodle soup, which could be good.
I mean, but we're gonna see that on the New York Times in 3 months.
No, I'm kind of traumatized by it. But yeah, I just think those early dishes didn't make any sense, and I think I was still figuring out what the book was. And then I had to write the kimchi chapter, and it was also time to see my parents. I really, was worried about them, and I just needed to not be in that studio apartment.
So the original plan wasn't to do it all with your mom?
No, not 100%. I was gonna call her, sure, to write some of these other things, but those first few months were a complete waste. Or I wouldn't call them a waste, but I think I was just still figuring it out. And so when I went there in late July, I got there, and the plan was to work on the kimchi chapter, the kimchi recipes, because I was fermentation is still pretty new for me, and these are some recipes that she has mastered over the years, so I should, that was the part that was going to be the heirloom part of the book. And then I stayed because the kitchen is huge, and and then
and now you have so much kimchi to eat.
Yeah, exactly. I have to eat it all before I leave. But also, having family around, and it was just so. I mean, I'm having. I was joking that I was dissociating earlier, but like I really am having this interesting moment where I kind of replicated the thing I did last year, and so I was home for a week, and it was lovely to be around family, and I was working on a few recipes, and I remember one night I was working on a cake, and cakes cause a lot of dishes sometimes when you have like chocolate involved. I'm trying not to tell what it is, but anyway, the point is I had to go upstairs to do another work thing, and I started washing the dishes, and my mom was like, no, don't do that. Like, you have to work. Let me do it. And I think that it kind of just reminded me of what the book process was like. I'm not saying she did all my dishes, but I wouldn't let her do that. But it was that support. It was just like people picking up where you leave off, Mm-hmm. And I think that's like a really that's like a really new thing for me, because I kind of moved to New York when I was 18. I had a brother here actually, which was really great. But then he moved to LA eventually, and I don't know if you guys feel this way, but living in New York is so lonely. It's just like you're doing everything on your own. Everything's like, unless you have a partner, or a roommate, or something like that. But I have a dog who's great. She picks up a lot of the slack.
So before working on the cookbook, did you do most of your recipe development from home on your own?
Yeah, it was always at home. I used to work at Food 52, but we didn't really have like a test kitchen or anything like that. And yeah, I did most of my development at home. And so, yeah, that's another thing. Like, recipe development, unless you're working in a test kitchen, sometimes it can get lonely. It's like, and it's really hard being in this, I'm probably using this word wrong, but like this echo chamber that's just yourself, mm-hmm. and you're tasting the same thing over and over and over, and your tongue is shot, and you're just like, I can't like tell anymore. And so I'm really grateful when my partner is, in town. I'm really grateful. I was really grateful working on this one recipe at home, because it was kind of like demanding, and my family was sitting there, like my dad, my mom, my brother, and his wife were all standing at the kitchen island, like with forks, like comparing, these two tests, and it was like 3-2, and I agreed with the 3. But anyway, we decided on a cake, and I loved that. I was just like, it made everything feel so much easier, I think.
Yeah, when I'm recipe developing, I get really caught up in my head, and they're only done because there's a deadline, mm-hmm. but I don't ever think any of them are good.
Yeah.
And I hate all of them when I submit it, and it takes like a really long time, because you know how sometimes you submit, like when I did the cookies for New York Times, those were developed like 3 months before they came out.
Sure.
And then I made it again when it came out, and there's so much time that I was able to appreciate it and be like, oh, it was fine. But like a book, there's so much lead time. So you finished this book a year ago,
yeah.
Maybe more?
Yeah, a year ago.
And so you
in
have
theory.
all this time. So when you do finally see it, are you like, yeah.
Man, thanks for, that's a really good point. That's a good point. Yeah, that is true, because even though you have all that lead time, though, it's still like 100 recipes. So it's I don't know about if you felt this way, but it didn't feel like any more time than like a recipe for work, for instance, for me anyway. And you're right. The biggest trouble I had was knowing when to stop, and with the book deadlines, they were kind of like loosey-goosey, to be honest. And sorry, hopefully my publisher's not listening.
Deadlines aren't real, right, guys?
Anyway, I just really think that I think I agree with you. With the book, I felt that way, actually. I felt like, man, I just have to like turn it in, and I felt really anxious about it for a long time, because I was like, man, the writing's not that great, like the recipes aren't that great, like I feel very, and you get stuck in your head because it's like this tome. Sorry, I don't mean to call my book a tome. I just mean that it's like a huge object, and it's like this Word doc that keeps freezing because it's huge. It's like 70,000 words.
Did you have it all in one doc?
No. I think I did eventually. You had to turn in the final as like a, and then you keep working from that doc.
Oh, I haven't gotten there.
You didn't
I'm just
do that.
submitting
Okay.
like Here's
you're doing so many little
1,000
chunks.
words.
Okay, that's good. That's good. That's way better. I think that's like one cookbook tip. Like, don't do it in one doc, like I did. But I think okay, I'll say one thing though. It was later, I guess, like, when the book came out and people started making the recipes and I started seeing them and people, weren't saying that they were bad. That felt really good. And I was like revisiting them kind of and cooking them. Also, what's really strange is I've learned so much at work. I would say that I got that job right when I was finishing the book, basically. And so the recipes that I developed were before I was doing this really rigorous cooking writing job, right? So I think I changed as a developer, and I think I got better, as one does when you do it a lot. And so that was something that was interesting for me. And but it felt good to be like, it's okay though. Those are recipes that I wrote that was the time in my life when I was, feeling those things. And but that's the weird part that people don't realize, that recipe is like last year's Eric. This year's Eric, I don't know what this year's Eric is, but like I feel it feels very different, and I feel very removed from it. And it's not a bad thing, but it means I'm just like always itching for the next thing. And the last thing I'll say about this is just that the writing, I felt really, 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 really anxious about the writing, but also really liberated to have that much space to write whatever the heck you want. It's really nerve-wracking, but it's also, I've never, there's like certain sentences I've never written, like certain things I've never done, and that was really fun to play with. And so that was a great joy with the cookbook, just writing the essays and knowing that I didn't have any like space limit really. Though I did file over, and then my editor chopped off like 15,000 words.
I was going to ask about that, because initially I was really strict with myself and like really editing myself, and lately I'm just like, just so it's quite significantly larger than planned. Sorry, Kitty. So what's it like when it starts just getting I haven't gotten to that part where they rip it apart. So
Oh yeah, that part's
set me up.
okay. So that's the thing. Even though you file it, I definitely feel like I was still writing it during the editing. I mean, editing is writing, right? It's like, I think it's where a lot of the real work happens. So I was happy to do that, and it's really gracious to my publisher and my editor for giving me a little more time. Like there was a point at the very end after the third pass. Third pass is, I actually didn't know this. I really didn't know that the third pass was supposed to be truly just like typos and stuff. I was making like huge syntax changes and like, changing the paragraph orders and like recipes and stuff. And I had a conversation with Raquel, my editor, and I was just like, I don't think I'm happy with this writing. Like I'm like a writer. This is like supposed to be good writing. I don't feel like I did that. And she was like, well, why don't you just like take another week? And I was like, I can do that. And she was like, yeah, your release date will be like 30 days later, but that's okay. And
You should not tell me these things.
Oh, sorry. Well, maybe I'm like blowing her spot too. I feel like I'm like getting a lot of people in trouble right now. But that was really important, because after, it's really like that extra room. It's like when you get an extension. It's like that's when the real work happens. I'm trying not to do that though.
Did you have the same thing happen with some recipes? Were there recipes that you, upon second viewing, needed some tweaks?
Yeah. It was really, there was a point when we had to cut for space. And so I developed 100 recipes for the book. It was supposed to be 100 because I just thought you're supposed to do 100 for a book. But my editor.
Wait, was that just like, you were just like, I guess books have 100, or did you have a?
I don't know. It was just like, books. My deal was sort of like, it's gonna be this many pages. It's gonna be, the book is this big. Like they know all this stuff beforehand.
I don't think we have that.
Oh, you don't? I don't know. At Potter, they like know that it's gonna be a certain size and a certain number of pages, a certain number of words, and so it was really lovely when Raquel was like, we just need to cut for space, but it doesn't matter what kind of space. And I was like, whoa. So what that meant for me was, I guess I'll cut some of the recipes that I don't feel as confident about. So I was able to cut like 6 recipes that weren't as good as the others, in my opinion. They're in a backlog, somewhere and I'll like rework them later one day. But that was really relieving because then I could make room for the essays. And so that's kind of what happened. And it was the writing that I was really more confident about, probably.
What recipe of yours do you find that you make the most? Not counting rice.
From the book? Oh. You know, it's probably the milk bread, honestly. Like, I do make that a lot. And for all the cheesy reasons I've written about, you know, the calm and the peace and whatever. But it's really also as a gift. I love when I'm like going to see someone and I really want to give them something meaningful. I feel like maybe it's like this selfish thing because it's very public knowledge that bread takes forever, but also that
we've already discussed there's no real altruism.
There's no real altruism.
Yeah.
I know. So that's why I like making the bread because
you just want to show off like.
I spent 5 hours for you, and I was thinking about you during these 5 hours, and here's this 5-hour bread. So
I love that it just looks like an emoji. Yeah. It's
I know.
cute.
It really does look like an emoji. Yeah, it's great. Thank you.
Developing bread is very hard, though.
Wow. Yeah.
We have
So hard.
Yeah, I'm working on a few breads in the
Ooh.
book, and I regret every single one of them.
Yeah, I stuck to one.
But how was that process for you?
So good. I think that time in my life I was juggling a lot of different things, different jobs. I hadn't gotten the Times job yet, so I was freelance assigning. I was a freelance writer for various publications, and had this like job at Savor, which I was like doing editing there, and so it was a lot of juggling, and the bread was an excuse to
procrastinate.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's really what it is. That's really what it is, and you know, I think one of the reasons I love my job the most is that, and I've heard Melissa Clark say it like this too, it's really real. It's like when you're cooking, it's a very tactile thing and you're using one side of your brain. And then when you're physically exhausted, you can go sit down and you have to write. But like you just use your brain, and that's like not physically as demanding. So it's nice to have that balance. You get to like switch off when you're tired.
Mm-hmm. No, you definitely don't get bored with this kind of work.
No. Wait, okay. You said that cooking for you is, you know, because you love cooking for others. Does that mean with your job, because you have to write a lot as well, which do you like more?
Oh, definitely the cooking.
Okay.
Definitely. Writing is so hard.
Writing is so hard.
It's so hard. And I don't know about you, but I always throw out like the first thing.
Oh. I don't
always
throw it
write
up.
everything twice.
Oh, you're right. Oh, interesting. I was talking to a writer friend yesterday, actually, and she... hi, thank you.
Thank you.
Every time, we're going to answer some of your questions soon. Every time she writes, she creates like a new doc for each, like every time she wants to like, it's like the digital version of, you know, like balling up a piece of paper, and then at the end of the night, there are like all these balls of paper on the foot of your chair. Is that what you do?
Well, okay, I don't understand that process. But if I'm working on something long and I'm struggling with organization, I like to print it out and cut out each paragraph and put it on the floor.
Ooh.
Like a puzzle.
Like Little Women style? Greta Gerwig.
I've never seen that.
Oh, that's really good. We should watch it. You know that scene at the end where she like is writing her book, and it's like she takes up the whole attic. Basically, I don't think it's a spoiler, but basically she puts.
You can't spoil something
maybe I
that
shouldn't. Okay.
old, can you?
No, you're right. Yeah, it's really old. But it's the scene, the way Greta Gerwig does it. It's so like, it's like not the moment for you to be like, oh yeah, I really relate to that as a writer, because it's a really like dramatic moment in the film. But for me, that is a thought that came to mind. I was like, yeah, when you physicalize your story, it's so much easier to organize it, because it's structure that's the hardest sometimes. I feel like I don't do that. I turn in a draft, and then my editor always chops off the first graph and the last graph. And I think that's because I do a lot of throat clearing. Like
getting warm?
Yeah.
Like the writing version of it?
Exactly. Like instead of just getting to the point, I do a lot of like, well, actually, I was driving down the street and listening to All Too Well. I think I do that a lot.
Like that English actor who mumbles a lot?
Oh, who's that?
He also has great hair.
Oh.
What's his name?
English actor who mumbles a lot?
He did a lot of romantic comedies.
Oh. Are you talking about Hugh Grant?
Hugh Grant.
Really? Wow. Oh, he was a tall kitty.
Takes them a while to get to the point.
It's true.
Okay, so I guess now it's time to give the people what they want. We got some questions.
Thank you so much for coming, by the way. I can't believe you're all here. It's really cool.
In the rain. Okay, so first question. You ready?
Yeah.
Was it very challenging to be a unique voice within New York Times to a predominantly white audience and being part of a staff that was previously mostly white? Sub question, how did you... Intense. How did you carve out a space for yourself in spite of this?
Wow. Wow, thank you for that question.
You want to read it? Will that help?
Yeah, I'm gonna look at it. Dang. Wow, that's a really intense question. Okay, how do I want to answer this? This is going on YouTube, right?
Everyone's gonna see, and your employer's here.
I know. No, in all seriousness, I had a very, I don't know, I feel very lucky, and I mean, it sounds very like, but like I do feel very grateful for the way it happened. I don't know if people realize this, but I was laid off from my last job, and then I got the book deal right after, and then I freelanced for a year. So I think people think I left, but my last job I was laid off, and so it was very traumatizing. And then it was the pandemic, and then the book deal, and then I emailed Emily Weinstein, and it was like a story about muchims. I had like this idea about how to like muchimify different vegetables that aren't just the usual. And a muchim is like a dressed salad. It's kind of like anyway. Sorry, I always go into the weeds, but she responded pretty soon after, and then she assigned me the story, and then I started working with them and had a great experience. And then I wrote a second story, got shingles, but the shingles were because I was like really anxious about writing about Korean food. And then I got to develop a cookie for them, made a video, and just it was kind of this slow, process of working with these wonderful people who are so good at what they do, and it felt like a real fit. And then I applied to the job, and I really think I get what this question is asking. Maybe in many ways I feel kind of like sheltered from a lot of stuff because my editors, they're never. I remember when I first started, it was made clear to me that you're not hired to write the Korean recipes. Like that's not why you're here, and that's not. I don't know if that's how my editor said it, but that was really important to me. I was like, dang, thank you for saying that. I never felt that way from the team, because these were pitches that I had pitched. I was writing a Korean book at the time. I was really interested in, exploring writing about Korean cuisine in the New York Times. But I remember that was like a good sign, or it was really important that I heard that early on, because everything I've done there has felt I don't know. Try not to get too sentimental, but like it felt like I could just be myself finally. Mm-hmm. And I hadn't felt that way in this industry. And so when I do want to write something, I don't know that I never feel that I'm like carving out a space for myself or anything. I feel like there was always room. There's always like room.
Mm-hmm. Well, my favorite thing about the recipes that you've done for them is there's like this nostalgic vibe. There's a lot of like Americana, and I love that stuff, like the M&M cookies and the mac and cheese. And one of the things that I've struggled with, like when we had a restaurant, we served burgers, and they're like, "Why are you serving burgers?"
Oh my God, yeah.
But it shows that like a lot of Americans are diverse. Yeah. We all ate M&M cookies and love them.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, that was great. You did it. I got one for me, look. I didn't even put that. It was just the next one. Here, you want to read it?
Oh, yeah. For Sohla, how do you balance writing with all of your on-screen work?
It's very hard.
Oh my God.
I'm constantly drowning, on the verge of burnout.
But this is really fun, right?
No, stuff like this is so fun because it's different from what I'm always doing.
Oh yeah.
Because I usually do so much stuff just, in this apartment
Yeah.
basement with minimal sunlight.
Right.
So you guys got me out of the house.
Yeah.
All right. When you were writing the book or developing a recipe, who do you feel like you imagine you are writing it or do it for? That's a good question. I have an answer for this.
Wait, I want to hear yours first.
Mine is I write for young me.
Aww.
Little Sohla.
So nice. Sorry, I felt I'm like overthinking it.
Say it's for your mom.
It's not, because like she can't read English. Really. Well, speaking of which, I do actually need someone to translate it someday. So if anyone knows anyone, let me know. But okay,
Timothy Chalamet.
Oh, that'd be great. No, I am thinking of I think I'm thinking of like not a certain cook, but I'm thinking of people who I think I'm thinking of the person who's gonna make the recipe. I'm sure you do too, but it's sort of like, not to get too like about it, but I'm thinking of someone who just like has to put dinner on the table, and I think for me, especially in our industry, I grew up like reading recipes and watching, TV, and I felt like they were talking to a certain kind of person, but I never felt like that person. I guess in a way I'm saying the same thing as you. I'm like cooking for me, but like I'm cooking for like the realistic home cook maybe, because I think there's so many assumptions made, but the reality is that a lot of people don't have time, and like so I don't know, like I like writing recipes in a way that I would like them to be written, so that when I'm following them, I'm like, why do recipes always ask you to sift this ingredient with this? So for when I develop that recipe, there will be zero sifting, because I hate sifting so much. I don't like sifting. And then I change the order of when you add things, because that's just like how I think it should be done.
Those are hard to wash, sifters.
I know, they're so hard to wash, but I used to use one, like one of those like hand crank ones, and I don't know why I wasted so much of my life doing that.
Well, you're probably stronger. Oh, okay. I don't know how we didn't get to this. How did you get your start in food media? Thanks, guys, for keeping us on track.
Oh. Before we got on here, so I was like, what are we going to talk about? I was like, I don't know. I was just like, we're just going to wing it. So I think it was really it's actually in the book. So the Spam and Perla Kimbap has a head note, and it's about my lunch with Michelle Buffardi. I tell this story every time. And now I learned that she's actually seen like every single, she's my former boss at the Food Network, and she's like watching these YouTube links as they go up, which is really sweet. But she was a really influential person in my life, and I was sort of like a summer contractor for her when I was in grad school and needed money, and so eventually when I dropped out of school, it was a crazy time in my life. I was super depressed. I had dyed my hair this crazy like orange color.
It's always a bad sign.
It was awful. I remember exactly what I was wearing, and we got lunch at Morimoto, and she had a job for me, and it was like, she was like, I don't know if you want this. I'm sure you're looking at all these other things, and I was like, yeah, sure, I'm looking at all these other things. But of course, I accepted the job like right away, and it was a job where it was like an entry-level position where I was supposed to data entry recipes from the doc to foodnetwork.com, and it sounds like menial labor, but actually that taught me how to write a recipe. And I think a lot of really cool people in this industry had that job. I realized later, and it's sort of this invisible job, but it taught me how to write a recipe. And then I got promoted from there a couple times, and then I went to Food 52, and it sort of kind of like happened like that. But what about you?
Well, I most of my career I've worked in restaurants, and we briefly had our own, which after that closed, I wanted to still be in food, but in a different way. And I just played the numbers game.
Nice.
I applied to every job that had any kind of food.
Yeah.
I recently was looking through my emails because I was looking for something, and then I saw that I had about like 1,000 pitches. I had to pitch 1,000 pitches before I got one. So I just did numbers, and then once you get one, though, it just snowballs, you know?
Yeah. You just need that one person who believes in you, and it's that one person. And what is the you know where I'm going with? Sorry, the lady.
The Taylor Swift song?
No, it's a Lady Gaga meme, and I love that you guys all knew what I was talking about.
All right, so what would be your perfect meals for breakfast, lunch, and dinner without any geographical or financial constraints? From Emily. Thanks, Emily. 3 meals.
3 meals. Okay. In Kyoto, I had this incredible tonkatsu, and it was served with a huge pile of cabbage. Like the cabbage was very thinly sliced, like definitely mandolined, and just like it was so crisp in your mouth. And you got to like grind your own sesame seeds to make the little sauce on the side, and it was just really good tonkatsu. And I remember being so inspired by that. So that's actually why I have a recipe in the book that's called, what is it called? It's a joke, but it's like
chicken with a lot of cabbage.
Yeah, it's like the cabbage. I think it's like a lot of cabbage with chicken. But yeah.
I was pretty close.
That was really close. Sorry, sorry. That was actually it was no. I loved that the nerve of like, oh, you think the cutlet's important? Here's the cabbage, man. And probably I would have that. They want us to
No,
like.
you need to do the whole meal.
Sorry.
Is that breakfast? Is that lunch?
Oh, okay.
Dinner?
That is definitely dinner. That's dinner. I think lunch I would have like an omakase from somewhere really nice.
Japan. Might as well go
Yeah,
there.
I was thinking of Japan. Yeah, I guess that's 2 Japanese meals. I really like Japanese food. And then this one will be a nice little bow on top. There's a kalbitang that it's made with these really long bones, and that's what inspired the kalbitang in the book. But it's just this kalbitang jeep restaurant on a mountain in Seoul in Korea, and my grandma was buried next to it, like not next to it, but like it's in that neighborhood or whatever, and I don't remember it. Like I don't remember that place. I don't remember ever eating there, but I guess we did whenever we visited that family plot. And but my brother has really fond memories, like recently, of going there, and he went with my dad, and that was sort of like one of the best kalbitangs he's ever had. And I would love to have that for breakfast. That's like a great breakfast to have, some like radish soup with rice, and then and it's just, I love Korea because there are just these restaurants where they do one thing really well, and that they're known for that one thing. And so you go to the one place for the kalbitang, you go to another place for seolleongtang. Anyway, I would probably, the sad thing too is that we think the restaurant closed. I think my dad said that recently. So I don't know if that counts, but like it's like temporally out of bounds now. But
it seems like we have no restrictions.
Yeah. Is this something you can answer to? Because I really want to know your answer.
Well, I know it said no.
Financial constraints. Oh, I did a bad job.
I know there's no geographical constraints, but breakfast, I want to go around the corner from my house to Cabra and get some pastries.
Yum.
They make really good canapés. Really good almond croissants on the weekends. Really good pâte à choux. Great bread. Coffee's not great. We get it to go. Come home for coffee. That's breakfast.
Ooh. What's your coffee?
Whatever someone sent me. Someone's always sending me coffee. I don't know where I got this reputation, but it's great.
That's really convenient. We're not allowed to accept gifts, so.
Oh. Whoops. Send me your coffee.
Oh, yeah.
Lunch would be, also down the street from my house.
Well, you are a homebody. You love being home.
We're probably going to do this tomorrow. Motorino, have you been there? They have really good Neapolitan-style pizza, wood fire oven. My favorite is the Dom Dom, which is like their ode to De Faras. You know the Dom there?
No.
Well, have you been to De Faras?
No.
I believe that that he's passed away recently, but he would make every single pizza by hand, and like he actually pulled it out of the oven
With his
his
hands?
bare hands.
Wow.
Like he's been doing pizzas his whole life.
What a
and then he
flex.
finishes each one himself with the big DeFaro's finishes, extra virgin olive oil, freshly grated parm, torn basil. So Motorino does a pizza like that. That's lunch.
Oh, wow.
Dinner?
Yum. The muscle.
Can I just like not leave my house for dinner?
Yeah.
Stay home for dinner?
What if you can like ship any really expensive ingredient to yourself?
Ooh, I just want a tin of caviar from Regalis
Oh,
with potato chips,
Oh.
homemade potato chips.
it would be
Dinner.
homemade potato. Oh, that's really great.
I think it was a great meal.
That was good.
Balanced
That's
eating.
yeah.
Yours was more balanced than mine. Okay, this is a two-part question. Part one. What is something really challenging about forward writing that most people don't expect? We'll double check if this is what it is. Okay. And then the second part is, what is one thing or habit or moment that you did that you think has something about success here? Sorry, guys.
About food writing that most people don't. Okay, what's something really challenging about food writing that most people don't expect? Oh, trying not to like get trapped in cliches. Don't you think?
Shatteringly crisp.
Oh, that happens a
That's
lot.
one that happens a lot.
Shatteringly crisp. People love the word zhuzh. Sorry, I'm not saying that's a cliche, but people love, I'm sure I've used that 1,000 times. People love certain things in the industry, and because when it's like sometimes it can be an echo chamber. You just like, you're looking at your colleagues and at other publications, and there's like this parroting that kind of happens. Is that okay to say out loud? So I think something that I think I'm really grateful for my editors because they like will scratch those out. They'll be like, no. And I really appreciate that. So what I like to do, I think like a challenge but a great joy is when you can write about food in a way that, with language that isn't really used for food. That's what I like to do. Or that's like a challenge that I enjoy.
The other day, I spent half an hour looking up synonyms for crunchy.
Oh my God, it's so hard. Well, I don't
Crackly,
Crackly.
shattering,
That's right.
snappy.
Crunchy's hard. Crunchy's really specific.
What's part two of that?
Okay, sorry. What is one thing or habit or moment that you did that you think was integral as your success as a writer, to your success as a writer or as a chef? Oh, okay. This is actually something I like to tell people all the time. Always take opportunities. Sorry, I know it wasn't like supposed to be advice, but I think when I look back on my life, it was taking the opportunities that I didn't know would lead to anything. Like I had no reason to take. Well, I had a lot of reasons to take this Food Network job because I was unemployed. But but I think I wasn't like, oh yeah, that's gonna lead to a cookbook deal and food writing and a career like this. Like, and I'm gonna be at the New York Times. I had no freaking idea. But everything kind of led to that. Like all the sequences, it was like the blind faith of being like, I don't know what I'm doing right now. I don't know what this is gonna do for me, but I'm gonna do it because it happened to me, and I'm gonna see where it goes. What about you?
One of my first jobs in New York was for a really popular restaurant group, but not in the kitchen. So I was in the office doing like their finances.
Whoa.
I hated it.
Yeah.
And like one guy was like, well, you know, I really like rap. So if Jay-Z asked me to go work with him, even if it was like as his secretary, I'd still want to be there because I'd be in the room. And that's when I realized it wasn't enough for me to just be near it.
Yeah.
And that's when I decided to just full on go into the kitchen. Like I wanted to always have a job where I was touching food.
Damn.
And I didn't want to just be a bystander.
Wow. That's badass.
All right, next question. Is there a recipe that had a huge impact on your cooking career? Josh.
Thanks, Josh. Oh my God. My cooking career.
I have one.
Yeah. Oh, this is so good. Please, I'm really bad at this. Wait, go.
Okay, so I only had two cookbooks for a really long time. but one didn't count because it was like a kid's cookbook. So my goal was to make every recipe in this cookbook. What was it called? Something about French cooking. I don't
Mastering the Art of French? No, sorry.
It wasn't Julia Child.
Oh,
I couldn't afford that.
yeah. It's a really big book.
But I really got stuck on the souffle.
Oh.
And I spent years and years just trying to figure out how to make a souffle. And I like never stopped. And eventually I got there. And now I can just bust one out without measuring.
Ooh.
And like, what that taught me is that so much of cooking is just practice. So and I think so much of everything, like writing is practice. Shooting a video is practice. Being on camera is practice. So when I get really caught in a tough spot, I think about that souffle and how terrible it was in the beginning and how we got there.
That was great. And you guys are really emotive. Like, I think I heard like, ooh, it's like, it was so funny. So sweet. Okay, that's a great story. I wanna try one of your souffles now. For me, it's not as poetic. I think it's. I remember watching Nigella on TV for the very first time, and I know later because it was like that was the first thing I saw that made me obsessed, and then I just kept like ingesting more and reading her books, and it was an episode of her show Nigella Feasts, because that was the one that was syndicated, produced by Food Network in America for the first time, because her show was always like a British show that was like brought over, but then Nigella Feast was kind of like American produced, and she like walked in, and it was a little more scripted, to be honest, because it's like Food Network, but she walked through the doors, took off her like coat, and it was like the scene was that she just got back from a night of drinks, and she just needs a snack before she goes to bed, and I was like, wow, who is this person? And she made a scramble. She made like I think she called it like a cheesy tomato hash or something, and so it was like chopped tomatoes. She chopped and she probably used her like mezzaluna, which is like just a wacky knife. I'd never seen it, and it was so, I mean this with love, but like it looked so clumsy in a way that just felt really inviting, and I just loved her energy. And
it felt like mom cooking.
Yeah, but for me it was like maybe more like big sister, coming home from college and being like, hey, what do you want? Like, and she made, and she just tossed everything into a pan with like frozen peas and like cheese. Everything's bound by cheese and lots and lots of fresh parsley, and I made that the next day, and then I just made more of her recipes like over and over and over. And I think it was sort of like this experience of, following someone, instead of Instagram, though, it was on TV, and then her books eventually. And when each recipe hits, you're like, oh dang, like I really love this person, and then you follow their career, and it kind of like happens like that. And a similar thing happened to me with Michelle Branch, like her songs. It's like you hear that first song, it's really catchy, and then she comes out with a second single, All You Wanted. You're like, oh, that's even better. The third one really hits, and then that's how you just like follow someone, because you realize something about their work really like resonates with you.
You're a big Nigella fan.
Yeah, I really am.
Have you met her?
I've met her twice, I think. Twice.
Were you okay? You handled it?
Well, actually the first time was here at the 92Y, and I couldn't speak. I think I got up to her in line, and she was kind of quiet, and I was like, oh, I have to speak first. Or I didn't, like, no. Or I don't know. I don't know what I was expecting. And all I could say was chicken crackling. Or no, I think I said like skin chips or something creepy. And she was like, what? And I was like, oh, like your chicken crackling in this book. I think it was Simply Nigella. I was like, she takes like chicken thigh skin and roasts them into little crisps. It's really cool. Anyway, she called it chicken crackling, and I was like, I call them skin chips. Like I was like, I do that too. We're the same. She was really nice though, and also that's all we said, and then I walked away. She signed one of my books, and I walked away because I was carrying like 2 others. And she was like, no, I'll sign those. I was like, no, it's okay. And she was like, no, I'll sign those. Come on. And then she like signed them both, and it's like they both say like, to Eric, with love, Nigella. So now I write to love, to a little heart. Sorry, that's really embarrassing, but.
All right, so the next one. What is one of your comfort dishes, and why do they comfort you?
I think my answer is just always keranbap. It's the title page of the book, the egg rice with the sesame oil and soy sauce, because it's really just the soy sauce and the egg and the rice. That flavor, specifically the egg yolk, I guess, it's like that flavor is just so elemental to me, and that's definitely my comfort food. What about you?
It really changes. I don't have like a consistent thing, but I feel like there's usually cheese.
What's your favorite cheese?
That also changes.
Yeah.
But I'm a really big fan of, there's this one creamery that's like everywhere now. They make something called Harbison, Jasper Hill Farms.
Oh, yeah.
Everything by them is great.
I like that.
I want that in my ideal meal somewhere as a snack. Okay, when developing your recipes, how often do you turn to your mother or family for advice? And when do you know when to take their advice or just trust your gut?
Oh, I turn to them when they're there, I guess. So not when I'm, in New York. It's when I'm in Atlanta developing, and some of the popular ones were developed there. The gochugaru salmon, the chicken with fish sauce butter, the shipen bibimbap came out of a dinner I made there. I kind of like think about the kinds of meals that happened there, and I think they got better because not just from like editors and testers, but also from my family tasting the dishes. So, what was the question? Sorry.
How often you turn to them for advice?
Not often enough. Not often enough. I should though. Yeah.
I love just like I think I want everyone's opinion.
I know. Me too.
That's what I miss about working in a test kitchen, because I would just like wheel my food through the office with forks. I'm like, what do you think? What do you think? So now I've got my husband and some friends, but it's still, you want as many people, because you want to make as many people as possible happy.
You really do. You really do. I agree.
All right, so in your book, what recipe should we start with?
Before I kept saying to start with the kimchi, because you kind of can use that to make all these other recipes in the book, and also it will teach you some very basic skills, like the salting and the fermenting that you'll notice in some of the other recipes in the book. But I realize now that that was sort of like a press tour answer, because but I think in reality, what I really want people to make probably is it's like a recipe that doesn't have a photo in it. And I think I decided this at another talk in DC. I was like, there's the weeknight curry rice with lotus root curry with carrots and eggplant and spinach, and it's sort of this. It was brown, so my photographer Jenny didn't want to shoot it, which I totally agree with her. But I love it because it's quietly just there, and it's really tasty. You're
blowing up at Spot now, though.
I'm blowing up at the Spot now. It's but I joke that it's my all too well 10-minute version. It's like I'm trying to make it the thing that people end up making a lot of, so that there are all these photos of it out there. And but I really love it because it came out of just a regular dinner, kind of like the shipen bibimbap. So I love those recipes because they're just grounded in the truth. And I love that recipe because it's how I cook. It wasn't like something I developed. It's just like how I make curry rice. And the way I do it is I like to use my Instant Pot a lot, but I like to braise baby back ribs, and then the bones kind of fall off, and so you have this incredible rib meat, like just like floating through the curry. And then it uses eggplant, which kind of melts into it and becomes the sauce, basically. Just incredible. And then the spinach really melts down as well, and so it really takes up volume, and it's sort of like it all coalesces into like this one thing. And then there are huge chunks of carrots because I like carrots, and no potatoes because I don't like potatoes in my curry. There's all these little things, but I made it once for
You don't like potatoes?
No, sorry, I don't like potatoes in my curry rice.
Okay.
I love potatoes. I love potatoes. I love crispy potatoes, but and I like that recipe because it's just it's in the book because my family told me to put it in the book, and I think that's really important to me. Yeah.
That's the best reason.
Yeah. Yeah.
The first thing I told myself I was gonna make was the kimchi, but it's candied spam.
Yeah, that's a good one.
How do you turn away from that? And if you guys haven't gotten a copy, I don't know how that's possible, but if you haven't, there's signed copies in the lobby. If you have a copy, just go get one because it's already signed. But yeah, this has been fun.
Thank you so much, Sola.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank
Thanks
you all for
coming
being
out.
here.